Hi, this is Basler. I'm in North Harris County, just outside of Houston, Texas, at the Harris County Water Conservation Garden. I have an introduction to that with Carol Fraser in another YouTube video. Today I want to talk about a nurse log, or nurse tree. A nurse tree is a tree that in nature is a fast-growing tree that provides a modicum of shelter to a slower-growing tree. It rockets out of the ground, dies young, usually has very soft wood that readily and quickly decomposes, creating a habitat for all manner of organisms, from bacteria all the way to two-legged and four-legged, feathered and furry creatures, and everything in between. That's a nurse tree. A nurse log is a similar such tree that has been taken down or has fallen down and is lying on the forest floor, serving as a habitat and food source for the wide diversity of biology that avails itself of such decomposing matter. Okay, so if you ever seen a tree that's fallen in the wood that's covered with moss and tangled with vines and understory brush and shrubs and fruiting structures of various fungal organisms, decomposing, full of holes, maybe it's got a habitat for a family of furry creatures, maybe it's got some holes with feathered creatures living in it. That is a nurse log. So a nurse log can also be used in a classroom setting to show people the importance of leaving the organic matter where it lies as much as possible, right? In the typical urban and suburban setting, we mow our lawn and we bag and haul away the clippings. We trim our shrubs, we bag and haul away the clippings. We prune our trees, we chip them and haul it off. Never is enough brought back onto the site to serve as the requisite organic matter to replenish the nutrients in the soil, to sustain the landscape. So let's talk about this tree here that's behind me. It's a sweet gum. Sweet gum's a good choice for this. It's a very wet wooded tree, decomposes fairly rapidly, and we have the good fortune to have some engineers at a water treatment plant tell us it's got to come down. So with the help of some very diligent activism, and I want to take this opportunity to remind folks that you don't have to chain yourself to a tree or climb yourself up in it to be a tree activist. There are quiet, everyday, not sexy ways of engaging in tree activism, doing one's part to help people understand the important role that they play in our lives without getting yourself in the newspaper. Not that I'm saying there's anything wrong with tree sitting, especially if it's on a government-owned tree. So with the help of some diligent volunteer phone calling and board of director meeting going, the Water Conservation Garden has obtained permission to dismantle this tree in as large a chunks as possible and transport it over to this future classroom. So since this site is part of the Sites Initiative, or Sustainable Sites Initiative of the LEED program from the U.S. Green Building Council, they have to measure compaction too. So that's why I've got these flags out, because we want a very narrow path on which we transport this tree to its final home in the classroom over here, just beyond this line of limestone. So it needs to be shaded, needs to be moist, and it's also going to need to be irrigated. So anybody out there who's watching this who knows any studies about the impact of treated water, particularly chlorine and ammonium, and how it impacts the life of the beneficial microorganisms that we're using to help use this tree as a nurse log, let us know, info@wideworldoftrees.com, so that we can help better plan this tree log. We want to plan this out as much as possible. That's why we're taking account this. We've flagged off this thing so we can decompact the soil after we've traversed it, and we also want to make sure that the water source doesn't do any harm to what it is that we're trying to accomplish with this classroom. We're also looking for funding, or they're also looking for funding. I'm, providing my quoted cost, but still there's some things. There's going to be a good 10 yards of coarse wood chips or mulch that we're going to want to lay down here to alleviate the compaction on transporting this tree across here. We're going to need probably 12 to 15, maybe even 20 pieces of plywood. That's expensive. We got to get our hands on that. We've already secured the cooperation of the Water Conservation District to help us take down a piece of the fence and put it back up when we're done. We're getting a backhoe in here to dig up as much of the root system as possible so that it can be part of the classroom. The root system is an essential component of a nurse log, I say. And so any kind of sources of funding to help us pay for all that extra stuff is going to make this thing as economical as possible. We welcome your comments in that regard too. So there it is in a nutshell. Turning a tree that needs to come down into a learning opportunity. And I'll finish by zooming in on some aspects of the water conservation garden that we didn't get time to cover in my interview of Carol Fraser. Thank you very much for tuning in. And again, info@wideworldoftrees.com, or simply leave a comment in the comments section. I'm Gene Basler.